Welcome to Maths on Radio, a program catalyzed and supported by National Council for Science and Technology Communication, Department of Science and Technology, New Delhi.
सोचो सीखो बोलो बदलो सोचो सीखो बोलो बदलो चमका दो दुनिया को जीत लो इस जहां को
सोचो सीखो बोलो बदलो सिर्फ मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो के साथ 107.8 FM मस्ट रेडियो पर।
फिर से मैथ्स में जीरो। हे भगवान, कब बनेगी तू मैथ्स का हीरो? क्या करूं मैं इस लड़की का?
अरे ट्यूटोरियल ज्वाइन करवा दो।
अरे नहीं, एजुकेशनल क्लासेस।
नहीं, प्रीति मैम की नोट से ही पढ़ लो।
नो मॉम, अब मैं करूंगी मैथ्स में टॉप और उड़ाऊंगी आपके होश, क्योंकि बढ़ रहा है मेरा जोश। अब नहीं देंगे हम मैथ्स टीचर को दोष, बिकॉज मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो हर रोज सिर्फ और सिर्फ 107.8 मस्त FM पर सुबह 9 बजे, दोपहर 1 बजे और शाम 7 बजे।
दोस्तों, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत आपके पसंदीदा शो मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो सीजन 2 पे। मैं हूं आपकी दोस्त प्रेक्षा और आप सुन रहे हैं 107.8 FM मस्त रेडियो। दोस्तों, आज ही मैंने अखबार में पढ़ा कि इंसान को 3 लोगों से हमेशा दूर रहना चाहिए। एक तो लॉयर, एक पुलिस वाले और एक लोन देने वाले। दोस्तों, लॉयर और पुलिस वालों का तो पता नहीं, लेकिन लोन से हम शायद कभी ना बच सके अपनी जिंदगी में। एक ना एक बार तो शायद हमें लोन लेना ही पड़ जाए। इसलिए इट इज बेस्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड इट। और इसमें डरने की क्या बात है? मैथ ऑन रेडियो इसीलिए तो आपके साथ है। दोस्तों, आज हम बात करेंगे फ्लोटिंग इंटरेस्ट ऑन लोन पे। ये कोई आसान विषय तो नहीं है, लेकिन इससे कोई डरने की बात भी नहीं। हमारी इस मुश्किल को आसान करने के लिए आज हमारे साथ हैं संतोष सिरूर। संतोष इज अ बैंकर एंड ही इज इन कॉन्वर्सेशन विद पंकज।
Hello friends, welcome back to another episode of Maths on Radio Season 2, and once again we will move to the bank and check out what sort of mathematics plays a very vital role when we either take some loans or mortgage something or take some money from a financial institution. And yes, we have with us friend, our banker friend Santosh Sirur once again on the hot seat. Santosh, welcome back.
Yes, pleasure to be back on the show.
Yes, last time when we spoke to you, we spoke about home loans, how EMIs are calculated, the math behind the EMIs. Yes, in school we all have heard about the simple interest, the compound interest. Then as we grew up, we heard about compounding on compounding interest.
Yes.
But something, people when they take the loans, there is something called as the floating rate.
Yeah.
Now, what do you mean by that?
It's a very interesting rate called the floating rate. Basically, one really gives into that kind of it, something called a floating rate, because one knows that at a point in time I may be paying a little more money. At a point in time I may be paying a little lesser money, depending on that floating rate.
Whatever the terms and conditions may be.
Absolutely, at a given point in time. So one knows that we may end up paying a little bit less, so one opts for it. So it's about not just the floating rate, but it's also the floating mind.
Right.
So that is what really
so
matters.
that means to say that normally loans, if I'm taking at 10% flat per annum for a period of 20 years,
yeah,
instead of that I have a floating rate of maybe 8% to 12%, for example, and it may vary depending on certain conditions.
Yes.
Okay.
So at a given point in time, you may actually end up paying a lesser amount of installment.
Slightly. Okay.
At a given point in time, for whatever economic factors or the conditions, you may actually end up paying more. So it effectively, during the tenure of the loan period, it kind of adjusts itself.
Averages out.
Forces. Absolutely, it averages out. So a loan is referred to as an adjustable, or as they say, floating rate loan if the interest rate is not fixed.
Okay, as I said, the example
that,
which was given earlier.
Yes, so the interest rates will fluctuate depending on the interest rates in the economy.
Whatever linkages they may decide.
Yes, so it's very important that if you're opting for floating rate of interest, then one should also be well aware of the economy around.
Right. So if, for example, there might be conditions where the RBI changes the repo rate, interest rate बढ़ गया, इधर कम हो गया, उस वजह से आपका आगे पीछे हो सकता है.
Absolutely. So how does it really work? Let's say this housing finance company, for example, will fix a base rate.
Okay.
Which could be an internally compounded index system, or very commonly or popularly known as the PLR, or the prime lending rate.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, there is a lot of
jargon
associated, but one must be really looking into it because it really impacts their kitty at the end of the day. So this interest rate on the loan will be benchmarked against the base rate. So that's your whatever interest rate it comes on that home loan will be benchmarked against the PLR. The next step will be implementation of the change in the base rate on the interest rate.
Okay.
So let's assume it adjusts the interest rate once a year. So let's take that this is happening once in a year.
The adjustment.
Yeah. So say at the start of the year, depending on whether the base rate has changed, your EMI, or basically your loan tenure, will accordingly rise or fall the next year.
Okay, so the possibility that you may keep the tenure fixed but keep the EMIs variable.
Absolutely.
Or vice versa, or both.
Absolutely.
That depends on the conditions which you accept.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that my EMI may remain stable, but my year of the tenure of return may change.
It may increase.
Or I keep it only for 20 years return, for example, but my EMIs might go up and down.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that depends on how are you willing. That's where the floating mechanism works. So one should be ready either to have an extended period of paying, or one should be ready for, within that same period, be ready to pay a little bit plus and minus of either EMI. More or less of EMI. So that's how it works. So the interest rate change could be incorporated at more frequent intervals. So say half yearly or even quarterly.
Oh.
The more frequently a change is made in the interest rate, the closer it is benchmarked to interest rates in the economy. So
it may happen that you have taken a loan at 10% and the variation may happen after every 3 months. So in 1 year it may be first is 10%, after 3 months 10.25%, it may become 10.5% after the 6th month, but after 9 months it may come back to 10.25%.
Yes.
And at the end of the year it may go up to 11% also.
Absolutely.
Oh, now that is interesting.
So that's what as one avails for the home loans, one should be aware of what kind of economy are we in. Are we in a growth oriented economy, or are we in kind of a stagnant economy, or are we in a kind of a economy where we are heading towards a depression or a stagflation, where you will effectively happen the bank, the RBI, which is the apex bank, either increasing or reducing rates. I think it's a very important tip that I'd like to share with all our listeners, that please do not get scared with the big words and the big numbers, because ultimately they involve very, very basic mathematics. Absolutely. And if you just look at them through that lens, I think you will be able to understand a lot more about what type of EMI we are paying or what type of loans we are taking. And particularly, Pankaj, one should be more careful when it comes to home loans, because that's where the quantum is always high. Right. The tenure is always going to be really, a 10 plus, 15 plus number of years. Minimum. And also at the same time it is something which is a dire need for you. Right. So I think all these three factors combined really make it very important for you to really delve into this subject even before you go and ask for a loan. So it's not just about the interest rate which is down that really matters, but all other factors. Which
yes. So
really-
that means you need to just pick up your mathematic textbooks, or maybe for 8th, 9th, 10th standard before
Yes,
you pick up a
going
home loan.
back to basics. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So it's the base rate. So example, if the base rate has dropped, the interest rate on your loan will subsequently drop.
Okay.
And the reverse will of course take place if the base rate rises. Now this will result in either two of the scenarios. One is the EMI will rise or fall while the tenure stays constant, as we just discussed, or the tenure will obviously increase or decrease while EMI is absolutely constant.
That is interesting. That is
So
very,
the-
very interesting.
The scenario which we discussed, annual statements bifurcating the interest
Mhm.
and the principal payments shall always be sent to the customers at the end of each financial year.
Right.
So one must really look at it, not just looking whether the amount has been debited or not, but also see what is that amount that has been debited, and you get a trend.
How it is reducing, because ultimately you have taken the money, you got to repay it back, but repaying back at the minimum effort and minimum money is what you're expecting yourself to do. So
Absolutely.
mathematics plays a very important big role in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now let us talk about maybe annual or monthly reducing rate. I mean, there's something involved in that.
Yeah, it's an equally important subject area when it comes to home loans. So the interest and the principal form the two components of the EMI, which we know.
Mhm.
When the interest is calculated on a monthly reducing basis, the principal amount on which the interest is charged goes down every month.
Okay, now let's make it a bit simple. Now we have a 1 lakh rupee loan.
Yeah.
I have to return back
Let's say in 15 years.
15 years.
And the interest
15
rate-
I think is a bit too much. Let's be realistic. I have
Okay.
a 10 lakh rupee loan that I have to
Okay.
return back in maybe 5 years.
5 years.
Okay, 5 years, and I have a 10% per annum is the interest rate.
Yeah.
Now, for the first year, my interest is 1 lakh rupees.
Yeah.
Straight away, right?
Absolutely.
So probably if I want to, you want to have the interest rate on the reducing this thing. So if I have 10 lakh plus 1, that is 11 lakh is actually that I have to return in the very first month.
Yeah.
The next month, how will the trend go? I mean, how will the mathematic work?
What happens is it basically reduces. Your EMI will be constant. Having said that, the EMI will be constant, the interest rate will be applied on a reducing basis. Now that is either monthly or annualized.
Right. So your EMI might be interesting because that 1 lakh rupee for the first month, for the first year, sorry, on that 10 lakh rupees is calculated, plus an amount of the principal which has to be returned,
Yes.
and then you calculate your EMI monthly wise, and then you give it for the next 5 years.
And again, remembering that your principal will always be increasing in component so far as it goes on
Right.
a number of years. So it's 5 years. So in the fourth and the fifth year, your principal component will be much more.
In the EMI.
Yes.
Very interesting. I hope I've got my mathematics right.
Yeah. And if it is calculated on an annual reducing basis, so
Uh-huh.
this is the case where it's an annual basis, the same principal amount on which the interest is charged gets lowered every year.
Every year. Okay.
Yeah. So this is how the whole, the mathematic behind the loans work. So there's this interesting example I have, considering a simple 1 lakh as a loan amount of 15 years tenure.
Okay.
And interest, let's say its rate is about 11.5% per annum.
Okay.
So on a monthly reducing basis, which we spoke about it earlier, one will end up paying EMI of 1,168. And
1,168.
yes, and if it was the same on an annual reducing basis, you would end up paying EMI which is 1,191, which is a few rupees more than the monthly reducing basis. So it's always preferable to have one on the monthly reducing basis.
Not on an annual reducing
Not
basis.
really.
So that means 1168, and this is for 15 years. That means you have 15 into 12 months,
Yeah.
is 180 months, and you are paying 1168. That means you are returning an amount of 2,10,240
Yes.
over 15 years for a loan of 1 lakh rupee taken today.
Yes. So that's the whole idea about the loan. We are giving you better be paying something beyond that. And we are paying you, or we are financing you at a time when you need it the most.
Yes. So, I mean, another aspect which comes out from this Math on Radio Season 2 is the banks or the financial institutions are ultimately business houses.
Yes.
We need to understand that there is some mathematics involved in it, because they also get a component in it through which they make all their expenditures and things like that. But unbelievable, 15 years I'm actually paying double the amount.
Yeah.
But if I keep that amount of 1 lakh in fixed deposit, or in that doubling kind of thing which happens after every 7 years, for example, I would actually get 4 lakh rupees. For example, if I keep 1 lakh and in a bank, it doubles after 7 years approximately.
Yeah.
So that means 15 years. I have 2 lakh after 7th year.
Yeah.
And 4 lakh after 15 years.
Absolutely. Agreed, Pankaj, but look at the macro level. Imagine this same money being, how does the whole economics work when a banking system? You as a average depositor, you place your money in a, let's say, a savings bank or a fixed deposit account.
Okay.
Then in turn, this bank has that money. They got to pay you interest. Remember that. So to pay that interest, they need somebody to avail a loan
on a slightly high interest rate.
Yes. So there is that differential, which is their profit margin,
and the one you back to you.
Yes. So that is the macro piece. So effectively, you go in for a loan or you place your money there. So imagine a scenario where one doesn't avail a loan, and imagine the situation for all on a macro level. What would happen? The economy would really crash. So it's always better that if the economy has to sustain, it has to increase. Credit is something which is always a very key factor which impacts the economy.
Yes, but probably if you look at the mathematics part of it, you need to take a call whether this suits you or not, and accordingly choose a better credit system.
Absolutely. And you got to really know, and I think that's the very basic which we learned in the first and the second standards of our life, that you got to live within your carpet. If you go beyond your carpet, then there's a big black hole there and you just fall off. And
mathematics will not be able to help you at all.
Absolutely.
Let's move our attention to, I would say turn our attention to something called as RDs and SIPs.
Yeah.
Simple investment plans or monthly investment plans, whatever it is. How the comparison works? I mean, I'm not asking which is better, because it might be your choice, but how does the money increase? The mathematics, how does it work in a RD or a SIP?
Yeah, RD or the recurring deposit, Pankaj, is a very traditional deposit in a bank. So effectively, one really deposits on a monthly basis.
Right.
Example, monthly basis here, 100 rupee or 1,000 rupee or a 500 rupee on a monthly basis in his or her bank account. Vis-a-vis that, an SIP, which is the systematic investment plan, is a new mechanism. Just that here it's same, it's 500, 1000 or 100. It's not going to be 100, but it's going to be 1000,
2000, 1000.
Where you invest in something called a mutual fund.
Right.
Now the big key difference out here is, if you look at the positives of the SIP, it's market oriented. One invests in a mutual fund, and as we all know, a mutual fund is somewhere where it's for the retail investor, for you and me, and they in turn will invest in the equities.
Okay, for us.
Yeah. So always, and of course here we are talking of a long-term scenario, at least 5 years. So effectively the rate of return is much more depending on the market scenario. Vis-a-vis that bank, what happens is there's a guaranteed rate of return. So let's say a 7 or a 8 or a whatever percentage. Yeah, the plus point of an RD here is that it's safe. Okay, it is guaranteed. It's in your own bank.
Right.
If you compare that with the SIP, it's of course market oriented and it's subject to market risks, which of course is always the punchline. But overall, if you look at it, always has the averaging piece.
Right.
So you may start investing in a market which is down, and then over a period of time, say let's say 5 years, you find that this is the time when I need my money. But yes, there is a good chance that you may actually blow up your money, because but that's where the cost, the average returns things work, where you should be on a long term. So if you're looking at a long term basis, 5 years, 10 years, go in for SIP. As they always call systematic investment plan. I always call it sleep in peace. Okay, but at the same time, if something which is in a year's time, your demand is coming in 6 months, 1 year, school fees
RD
time,
is interesting.
then RD is very important.
I've known many friends of mine who actually invest in RDs over the period of 1 year, gather the amount, and then go have a vacation.
Absolutely.
That's the best part of it.
Absolutely. But the flip side of an RD, of course, is the tax piece, which you need to plan it well. Also, it's something which, compared to a market rate of return, the return is definitely lesser. Yeah, but at the same time, it is safe. It is in your own bank, and you are, you can just go and withdraw. Of course, same with the SIP, you can just redeem your funds in less than 24 hours. Having said that, a bank is somewhere next door. So that's how the
exactly. So I remember something called as probability that we learned in school. It's all about the probability. I think if you listen to Math on Radio Season 2 episodes, maybe the logical thinking develops much more. And whether you want to take a home loan, understand the math behind it, You want to go for an RD? Understand what will happen. I'll just give you a quick example. For example, if I invest 1,000 rupees per month for 1 year in an RD, how much probably would I get back at 8%? So 1,000 rupees at 8%, probably 80 rupees would be my return every month.
Yeah.
So 1,080 in the first month, and then 8% on that 1,080 in the next month, and so on and so forth. So probably maybe 2,000 or 3,000 rupees at the end of the year additionally.
Yes.
SIP, something similar, but if the markets are good, you may actually get maybe 4,000 or 5,000 rupees.
Yes.
For that 1,000 rupees you are putting in every month.
Yes.
Basic mathematics, if you calculate before signing that form,
yes,
would make a huge difference.
And that's where the factor comes in, is you got to keep your eggs in different baskets. You can't keep all of them in one basket. So you should have that risk and return average ratio. So typically, Pankaj, if I have to really recap on the loans piece, if an EMI is arrived upon, put financial stress on you, so you feel that EMIs are a stress on you, you must request your financier for an extended repayment period. And there you will typically have a lower EMI in the month. If it does not lay any financial burden, request your financier to lower the repayment tenure and effectively increase the EMI. If you are certain that interest rates are slated to rise in the future, opt for the variable interest rate loan. And of course, if you are not comfortable with the uncertainty of the interest rates, opt for a fixed rate loan where the interest rate changes in the economy will not affect your tenure or even your EMI.
Don't worry about the big words as far as the economy is concerned, but simple thing, we are trying to improve your perspective towards banking, as well as some very, very basic fundamentals we spoke about in this particular episode: averaging out, probability, interest rate, simple, compound, floating, and percentages. We've all learned that in school. Friends, look at it, try to kind of recollect it, and probably you may end up saving a bit more of money than you are actually doing.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Santosh, for joining us today and talking about the floating rate and the SIPs and the RD and the mathematics involved in it. We'll surely catch up with you to talk about more mathematics in banking.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you.
Stay tuned to Maths on Radio Season 2.
कैलकुलेशन से हम हो गए बेजार, अब तो समझ न आए मैथ्स हमको यार, अब क्या करें, कहाँ पढ़े, मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो, पर मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो, पर मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो, पर मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो, 107.8 Maths on Radio, 107.8 Maths on Radio, 107.8 Maths on Radio.
दोस्तों, अभी हमने सुना फ्लोटिंग इंटरेस्ट ऑन लोन्स के बारे में संतोष से, और अब हमें हमारे कुछ दोस्त बताएंगे कि उन्हें मैथ से डर क्यों लगता है.
Hi, this is Pooja Pawar from MACJ, and the reason I don't like maths is because of his huge lengthy theorems, tables, and trigonometry.
Hello, this is Monica Mishra from MACJ department of Mumbai University. I stay in Parel, and my reason I hate maths because of its formula. I hate to mug up the things. Then another one is the steps with number 1, number 2 and all. And I just hate maths. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, I am Namrata Prabhu. I am from MACJ department in Mumbai University. And the reason why I do not like maths is because I feel I have a phobia against it. I feel I learn the entire theory, theorems and formulas, but when it comes to going to the exam and actually producing it, I get nervous, and in that nervousness I forget what I write. So I think that's what is my main issue.
One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 सुरों में बन गई सारी बात. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. अब सुनो, मैथ सीख कर हो गया था मैं बोर, दिमाग पक गया, बंद हुए सारे डोर, न्यूटन पाइथागोरस मचा रहे थे शोर, गिन गिन के पक गया मैं 1 2 3 4, फिर शुरू किया मैंने रेडियो, वहाँ भी था मैथ्स मैथ्स मैथ्स, पर पसंद आ गया वो धुन, सुन मेरे भाई जरा सुन, 107.8 FM मैथ्स है ऑन रेडियो।
सुरेश, आज मुझे हिस्ट्री आती है, ज्योग्राफी आती है, साइंस आती है, केमिस्ट्री आती है, फिजिक्स आती है, तुम्हें क्या आता है? हाय
भाई मुझे मैथ्स आती है भाई।
तूने मैथ्स कहाँ से सीख ली? हाय
अरे अब मैथ सीखना हो गया है आसान। मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो सिर्फ 107.8 मस्त एफएम पर, सुबह 9 बजे, दोपहर 1 बजे और शाम को 7 बजे। मस्त सुनो और मस्त रहो।
ही है बॉल, रन चाहिए चार, मैथ्स बिना कैसी जीत, कैसी है हार, 1 किलो चावल में आधी किलो दाल, खिचड़ी में भी मैथ्स चाहिए यार, मैथ्स बिना दुनिया में कुछ भी नहीं, जहाँ जाए नजर दिखे मैथ्स ही वही, जिंदगी में मैथ्स बिना कुछ भी नहीं, और मैथ्स बिना किक मुझे मिलती नहीं, मैथ्स बिना किक मुझे मिलती नहीं, हाय मैथ्स बिना किक मुझे मिलती नहीं, मैथ्स बिना मैथ्स बिना मैथ्स बिना, मैनू मैथ्स ना मिले तो मर जावा, मैनू मैथ्स ना मिले तो मर जावा।
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Math on Radio. It was fun, wasn't it? Please tell us what you think about us, what you would like to listen, and you can give us your valuable feedback on radiomust@gmail.com. That is radiomust@gmail.com. You must also visit our Facebook page. The name of the page is Radio Must Community Radio. You can listen to all the podcasts on mustradio.in, and all the episodes are also available on our Facebook page. So please visit it. That's all we have on this episode on Math on Radio Season 2. I'm Preksha signing off.
चिंकी, मैथ्स का होमवर्क किया तुमने?
नहीं मैम।
अभी करेगी या थप्पड़ लगाओ?
थप्पड़ से डर नहीं लगता मैम, मैथ्स से लगता है।
इसमें डरने की क्या बात है? हर रोज सुबह 9 बजे, दोपहर 1 बजे और शाम को 7 बजे सुनो मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो, ओनली ऑन 107.8 मस्त रेडियो FM। पढ़ो और पढ़ाओ, मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो बजाओ।
दोस्तों, आज के लिए बस इतना ही। मैथ्स से जुड़ी जानकारियों के लिए सुनते रहिए हमारा प्रोग्राम मैथ्स ऑन रेडियो। अगर आप भी मैथ्स के बारे में कुछ जानना चाहते हैं या फिर हमें कुछ बताना चाहते हैं तो तरीका बहुत ही आसान है। आप हमें ईमेल कर सकते हैं radiomust@gmail.com पे, या फिर आप लॉग इन कर सकते हैं हमारे फेसबुक पेज पर mathsonradio@must। टिल देन, टेक केयर।
This is Must Radio, only on 107.8 FM.
Maths on Radio, a program catalyzed and supported by National Council for Science and Technology Communication, Department of Science and Technology, New Delhi.